So the debate around the Congress Manifesto, what does it say, what does it not say, and this whole political discourse around reservations and Muslim quotas have been in some ways driving the election campaign of 2024. To talk about this, we have one of the most erudite speakers from the Congress party, former Minister, MP and Congress leader, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Thank you, Dr. Tharoor, for speaking to NDTV.
Pleasure, Vasudha.
I'll start with the place that you just got back from, the Thiruvananthapuram campaign. You've been quite dismissive of the BJP campaign, saying that if the 2 digits that the party wants to get in Kerala, if that has to happen, yes, would be zeros. But sir, this party, BJP, has also been steadily increasing its vote share. Is the south of India, particularly Tamil Nadu and Kerala, capable of throwing a surprise this time?
I don't think so. In fact, they've not been steadily increasing their vote share in Kerala. They went from being about a 2 or 3% party at the beginning of the century to about a 12-13% party in 2014, and they've stayed at that level. Because taking the state as a whole, averaging it all out, it comes to 12-13% in 2014 and 2019, and I don't think it'll be much better in 2024. If you were to look at individual constituencies, say Thiruvananthapuram, which is probably and arguably their strongest constituency in Kerala, where they've come second twice, they have hit their peak at 31%. In fact, I think they were at 32% in 2014 and 31% in 2019, which is down, so not a steady increase. And they're certainly going down from that in 2024. So I think the BJP has hit the limits of its appeal in Kerala, largely because we are a society that has been so far immune to this communalism contagion. Not the communism contagion, unfortunately, but the communalism contagion we've been immune to. And as a result, there's only a certain level of people who are prepared to vote for that kind of agenda.
Right. Dr. Tharoor, talking about, the issues that are making news now, Constitution seems to be the center, it's taken center stage, it's driving the conversations now, at least the political conversations. The Prime Minister says that the Constitution is very sacred. I'm not going to touch anything about this. But you, on the other hand, have been saying that this election is a fight for democracy. Tell me, this aspect of the Congress party saying that 400 milega, the Constitution change hoga, does that amount to scaremongering, or is it a genuine concern?
No, there's no logical reason for them to claim this ab ki baar 400 par unless they want the agenda, as 4 of their people have said. 4 of their candidates have said on different occasions that they wanted to be able to change the Constitution. Now, since most of our constitutional amendments have been consensual with all parties coming along, you don't need any majority other than what you've got in Parliament, because you bring everyone along with you in the constitutional amendment. You only need 400 par if you want to do things that nobody else will agree to. And if that's the intention, obviously we have to warn the nation about it. But anyway, 400 par is a distant fantasy for them now, and they've stopped saying it. But what is more worrying to me right now is that they have been violating the spirit of the Constitution already, while seemingly adhering to the letter of it. So Prime Minister swears by the Constitution, but he's hollowed out the autonomy of all the autonomous institutions in the country, from the Information Commission to the Election Commission to the Reserve Bank. He has also weaponized his investigative agencies very selectively against opposition targets or those supporting the opposition. He has whitewashed people who were allegedly corrupt until such time as they joined the BJP or its allies, and they suddenly became whitewashed. He has, under his rule, we've seen the media completely intimidated to a point where they're afraid to publish anything critical of the BJP and of the Prime Minister. All of these things are very, very serious charges that have taken place without amending the Constitution. So the intention of the BJP to run what has been described abroad as an electoral autocracy, that's worrying enough. The Constitution has been written for a democracy. But as Dr. Ambedkar warned, it depends on how you run it. He said a good constitution run by bad people can become a bad constitution. And a bad constitution run by good people can become a good constitution. It depends on how you implement it. And he was right. Because what we're seeing is the Constitution is being paid lip service to, the letter of it is honored, and the spirit of it is completely being eroded by the BJP government.
Right. Dr. Tharoor, it's been more than 20 days since Congress Party's manifesto had been released, and BJP leaders are talking about it every day.
So without reading it, they're talking about things that are not in it.
Yes, while you say that they're possibly reading a manifesto written by a ghost, they are saying that this is a fight to protect India from ideas, dangerous ideas that are being presented by the Congress party in the garb of solutions. I wanted to ask you something like an economic redistribution or an X-ray.
Where is the word economic redistribution in the manifesto? Look,
Absolutely.
I'm in the manifesto committee. There is no such phrase in the manifesto.
Even for that matter, a census. Do you think the manifesto leaves some grey areas that have left it open to interpretation? Which
Not
is
at
why
all. Not at all. Every charge the BJP has applied is completely concocted by the BJP's propaganda machinery. They have talked about people snatching gold and Mangal Sutras.
Yeah.
There is no reference to any of this. They've talked about the inheritance tax. There is no reference to any of this. None of these issues are even discussed, by the way, in the manifesto committee. The only issue that they have drawn attention to is Rahul Gandhi using the word X-ray.
Yeah.
But that does not mean coming into your house and opening your cupboards. What Rahul Gandhi said very clearly is an X-ray gives you a picture, an accurate picture of what's going on inside your body. Similarly, we need an X-ray to find out what's going on inside our country. Caste census is simply to identify caste because, as you know, in every state government and the central government, some benefits are given or withheld depending on your caste affiliation. Therefore, knowing the real numbers in any case makes sense. If you're making policies that give benefits to caste, you may as well know what you're talking about. Secondly, we've said it should be a socio-economic caste census. In other words, we should correlate what people are earning with what they've got in terms of a caste affiliation. For example, if there is a correlation between Dalits and poverty, if more Dalits are below the poverty line, for argument's sake, then you really need to make an effort to have targeted policies to benefit Dalits. If you find Adivasis are disproportionately below the poverty line, you should do the same thing. And so it goes.
Right.
My argument with all of this is that this is a process that will have to be embarked upon.
Yeah.
It is not at this stage anything more than a diagnosis. An X-ray is used for diagnosing.
Yes.
The prescription has not been made until you've done the diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Why is the BJP inventing an imaginary prescription of wealth redistribution and ascribing it to the Congress?
Okay.
All we're talking about is let's have an accurate picture of what's going on. That's a diagnosis. It is not a prescription. If you object to the diagnosis, tell us why.
Right.
Why is it you don't want to know what the caste distribution is in the country? Why is it you don't want to know who's poor in this country?
There's one more objection that they've been talking about, which is the Muslim quotas. They've said that.
There is no Muslim quota.
But today the Prime Minister said that will the Congress party come forward and announce that it will not have Muslim quotas in future? Now that I know
Look,
is a...
let me say very clearly, this is a manifesto for a party fighting the Lok Sabha election. At the national level, there never has been a quota based on religion for any community. Some states, and I think I know particularly which one the Prime Minister is thinking about, have decided that Muslims can be classified as OBC in those states.
Yes, Karnataka.
And no, it's not just Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, there are other places where some categories of Muslims are deemed to be OBCs. That is entirely, still only an OBC reservation.
Okay.
But under the OBC, the number of castes listed, and it so happens in some states, Muslims are counted like an OBC caste. That is something which has been non-controversial in those states. Why the Prime Minister wants to make a bogey of it, we don't know, because this is a national election, it's not a state assembly election. If he had to make an issue of it, he should have made an issue of it in the Karnataka assembly. He didn't do so. He could have made an issue of it in the Kerala assembly. He didn't do so, or Tamil Nadu assembly. But this is not a federal policy. It's not a union government policy. And our manifesto is written for the union government. We haven't mentioned this anywhere.
Absolutely. Dr. Tharoor, when we talk about Hindu faith and the question of identity, you've always talked about yourself as a devout Hindu. You've written books on that. In fact, the RSS in Kerala does not even attack you on that particular aspect. But your party has been quite silent on the aspect of UCC and CAA in the manifesto. I know that you've opposed it in the parliament also.
I told you why.
Yes, and there are also Muslim leaders in your party who have come forward and said that they are reluctant, the party is reluctant to give them tickets. Is there a strategy? Because I know that you've also been against the concept of soft Hindutva and hard Hindutva. How do you see this approach, sir?
Okay, first of all, let me say that as far as my party is concerned, is not true, because we tend to see people as people. We look at their qualities and not so much their religious affiliation or their caste or anything else. Secondly, as far as the overall question of Muslim representation is concerned, we are the ones who pointed out that this BJP government is the first government in the history of independent India that has not had a single Muslim MP in either house throughout this term and hasn't had a single Muslim minister for any portfolio. Even the minorities portfolio is being handled by somebody from the majority community. Now, this is in many ways a striking thing that we would never do. We will certainly expect to have Muslim MPs elected under our banner. Even in my state of Kerala, there was only really one seat that was changed because all the sitting MPs were renominated. And the one new person who came in as a candidate happens to be a Muslim, Shafi. So, I mean, there is no question in our minds that we do not discriminate against Muslims.
Right.
So, the question about Hinduism, let me just stress very simply that I, as a believing Hindu, am strongly opposed to the political doctrine of Hindutva, which I believe is fundamentally opposed to some of the cardinal principles and tenets of Hindu philosophy that I have grown up being taught, reading about, studying and believing. One of the crucial elements is the acceptance of different ways of worship within the faith and between faiths. Swami Vivekananda, who's my guru as far as I'm concerned since my teen years, when I first read him, he used to quote the Shiva Mahimna Stotram, which said that just as many rivers flow, sometimes straight, sometimes winding, down mountains and valleys, but end up in the same sea, so also all forms of worship reach the same divine, the same Brahman. And that is the idea that most Hindus should believe if they take Hindu philosophy seriously. In which case, which form of God you wish to worship is up to you.
Right.
That's why we have 330 crore names and manifestations of the Godhead. But by the same logic, somebody else's God is also to be respected and revered. Because that is what our faith teaches us. Their way of worship is theirs. It may not be yours. But you have to respect it and they should respect yours.
Right.
That's been the recipe for coexistence in our country for 2,500 years. And Hindus have thrived while admitting that other ways are also possible for other people. What is sad to me is that people are showing intolerance and bigotry in the name of a faith that is anything but intolerant and bigoted.
Okay.
So my critique of Hindutva is from within Hinduism.
Okay.
There are a lot of people in my party also who critique Hindutva from a staunchly secular position, that they believe religion has no place in our society and in politics. That's a different argument.
Right.
My argument is from within the Hindu fold. I believe Hindutva is wrong and un-Hindu. One could even argue it's anti-Hindu.
Okay, that's very interesting. My last question, sir. You're just, amongst handful of Congress leaders who are contesting elections.
Yeah.
Digvijay Singh, you, K.C. Venugopal, and a few others. What kind of message does the party, want to send out when it comes to political combativeness? Because it seems to a lot of us that the party leaders, the senior leaders, seem reluctant to take on this fight.
No, I think there are always factors in every individual constituency as who's electable. For us, the cardinal principle in giving a ticket has always been winnability. I mean, I've been holding the seat for 3 elections in a row, and they felt it safe. Not just me. Throughout Kerala, the feeling was that the incumbent MPs have done a good job and should be given a chance to defend their seats. We've been working in our constituencies. We've cultivated the constituency.
Yes.
We should defend the seat. That's the logic. And in other cases, there have been people who are deemed to be electable in some places, who may not be electable in other places, but as long as there is an opportunity in a particular constituency, they've taken on the challenge. I don't think that's a fair analogy, because certainly it is the BJP government that has given us a far larger number of technocrats through the Rajya Sabha route, working as ministers, than any previous Congress government, which consistently has favoured the Lok Sabha in its ministerial portfolios. And I do believe that ultimately this election is for people who can win votes. It's the Lok Sabha election that's at stake. Everything else will follow. But we can only form a government if we can get people elected. So we want to put our best foot forward and put candidates forward who can be elected.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Tharoor, for speaking to NDTV. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vasudha.